deals with separation of the soul and the body. We stopped on question 157. Today we start at question 158. Just look at the questions, it's easier. Just to recap, because for those of us who were not here last week, to continue here without getting some very important understanding will not be productive. The separation of the soul and body. Soul, by definition, in Spiritism, is an incarnated spirit. When the spirit associates with matter, with our physical body, it's the proper terminology in Spiritism, it's a soul. We use the word soul in many different ways. We have the vices of language, but if we are going to use the proper terminology, as every science has its own terminologies, it's in Spiritism, soul is an incarnated spirit. So the question of Kardec is, so what happens to the soul when the body dies? And again, to reinforce, death is an organic phenomenon. Body dies, spirit discarnate. Okay? The body dies, then Kardec, so the body dies. We see many body dies. What happened to the soul? And the answer is very simple. It ceases to be a soul, it becomes a spirit. Meaning that it's no longer incarnate, it's no longer attached to a physical body. It returned to the spiritual world. And the answer for the spirit is exactly it returned to the spiritual world. And this word, the return, is very important also. We have again the vices of language say departed. It's not a departed, it went back, it returned to it. Because that's where you belong. That is the true world. Here's the school, here's the hospital. Our true home is the spiritual dimension. So what happened to the soul? It ceases to be a soul, becomes an errant spirit. We don't use the word errant in front of spirit just for facilitate the communication. When we say spirit, we understand we're talking about the errant spirit. And again, in accordance to the doctrine of Spiritism. Okay, if other doctrines of religions or the spiritualist works with the spirit in a different way, I understand. But here we're dealing with a terminology in Spiritism. When we say spirit, we are referring to an errant spirit or a spirit residing in the spiritual world, not associated to a physical body. Another question that Kardec places over here that you covered, does the spirit continues with individuality? And yes, absolutely, at all times. The spirit will never lose its individuality. Another question that is important for us to keep in mind, how the separation happens. The physical body is attached to the perispirit, the spiritual body, through many connections, wires, you don't know exactly, linings, whatever word you feel comfortable with. Some books that you read, you're gonna say molecule by molecule, others will say cell by cell, others will say organ by organ, but definitely more than one, many. If it's molecule by molecule, it'll be about 1 trillion, right? We don't, no, it's cell, I'm sorry. If it's cell, it's gonna be about 1 trillion cells. Molecule, I don't know. You can't even think about how many molecules, how many wires would they be there. And at the moment of the cessation of vitality of that physical body, death of the body, the process of separation starts. We know with the works of André Luiz that there is a specialized group of workers that helps in the process of discarnation, this process of separation. And everyone is assisted. You also know by the works, now that comes from Emmanuel, that that separation of the perispirit from the physical body may take up to 72 hours. It doesn't have to take 72 hours, but it will not take more than 72 hours. And we also know that we may retain ourselves attached to that physical body through our mind. Now there is no more of those connectors holding us together with the physical body. But because of our guilty, because of materialism, because of our ignorance, many reasons, we keep ourselves with our mind connected to the physical body. And some may even witness the decaying of that physical body. And some will imagine that it's still alive and witness this own body decaying, which might be a horrendous torture. But there is no more separation. There is the so-called the silver lining, the one that is the last one to be severed, the last connection that connects the physical body to the perispirit. Once that is detached, that's the end. That physical, there is no more return. The body will decay, you return to nature, and by the law of Lavoisier, and we will return to the spiritual world, to where our mind takes us in the spiritual world. Okay? Is there any question regarding those topics? Those topics are extremely important for us to continue. If it not, then you can read 158.
Okay. A caterpillar begins its existence by crawling on the ground and then spins itself into a cocoon, into an apparent death, only to be reborn as a brilliant butterfly. Can we correlate our human life, death, and life after death to this transformation? Yes, on a very small scale. An image may be good, but it should not be accepted literally, which human beings are prone to do.
In my opinion, the spirits were very generous with Kardec when they say, yes, on a very small scale. I would say on a very, 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 very small scale. For one thing, the caterpillar having that metamorphose and turning into a butterfly, it has no free will. It happens despite of the caterpillar. Okay, it's a process, a natural process in nature. Okay, has no responsibilities, has no karma, so to say, right? Only by that makes things extremely different. That very small scale that I would agree with here is upon returning to the spiritual world, we have more clarity. When you lose the limitations that this physical body imposes upon us as a spirit, we see things a little bit better. We are more able to recognize some mistakes. We are able to see things slightly different. And that in itself is a conquest. It's something that you gain. It's something that perhaps transforms you from that ugly caterpillar to in the process of the butterfly. Because at least now you recognize few things that you could not recognize before, that you had your eyes closed to. Now you look at things a little bit different. Only let's imagine one scenario in which you did not believe in the perpetuation of their life after the death of the body. only to come to that realization that our life, spiritual life, or true life is eternal, is in itself a step up, the conquest. The opportunity of reunite with loved ones that had returned and went back to the spiritual world way before us and see them again is in itself a conquest. You learn so much only from that. So, oh, my grandmother is here, she came to receive me. That, if that doesn't open in your mind 100 questions, you are not a thinking being. And when you seek to answer those questions, it is in itself a conquest. You may not even get the answers, but only to seek to get it, it's already progress. So you already move up slightly. One of the questions in the spiritual book Kardec asks is if we progress in the spiritual world. And the spirits are clear, we learn everywhere and anywhere. So you have the opportunity of learning in the spiritual world tremendous amount, which is a conquest, which is moving up. We progress here because we have to apply knowledge. You come here to apply knowledge, but we learn everywhere. So in a very, very minimal scale or degree, that this analogy of the metamorphosis of the caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly have some degree that I would accept. But besides that, the caterpillar changed dramatically from being what it is to a butterfly. It's a completely different thing. With the spirit, we don't change that much. We're not going to transform ourselves into something else. We may better ourselves a little bit through those things that I just mentioned, have a little bit more clarity, but our progress is slow. Evolution is little step by little step. We're not going to transform ourselves from a caterpillar to a butterfly just because we lost a physical body. On the contrary, we stay pretty much the same. Continue with our likes, our dislikes, with our beliefs and disbeliefs, except as I've just mentioned, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, upon any coming back home to the spiritual world, may have that clarity, but some even do not have the eyes to see and do not have the ears to hear, as Jesus has mentioned to us. Okay? Questions? All right, we move on.
159.
Sorry, my friend.
Thank you. How does the soul feel when it realizes that it is in the spirit world? That depends. People who have done wrong for the sake of doing wrong feel overwhelmed by shame for their behavior. The soul of a righteous individual is at ease, as if a heavy weight has been lifted, and does not dread even the most penetrating evaluation.
We see here again the benevolence, the care of the spirits when they put the answers. That it depends. People have done wrong for the sake of doing wrong, feel overwhelmed. Because if they don't put it there for the sake of doing wrong, we are all feel pretty bad. But which one of us is in the position of throw the first stone? We all have done wrong. We all have dropped the ball. We all have spilled the milk. But not all of us have done wrong for the sake of doing wrong. That's a big, big, big thing. And the spirits will make sure that we know you guys. You guys are far from not doing wrong. But I'm talking about the ones that really drop the ball because they want to drop the ball. They kick the dog because they want to see the dog cry. That's different, right? They will feel overwhelmed by shame for their behavior. We just deals a lot with our conscience, where the divine laws are imprinted, right? If you go against the divine laws imprinted in your conscience, knowing that you're going against it, and doing deliberately going against it, then you should feel ashamed before. You should feel overwhelmed for. Now you have that conflict, because every time that we go against our conscience, we create that conflict of what is our true nature. Our true nature is good. We are created in the image of God. And you choose to go wrong, you create that conflict. Then we will have a little bit more difficulty in the spiritual world than the ones who have done wrong, but mistakenly, not with the intention of doing wrong. Perhaps have harmed someone here and there, but not with the intention of being harmful to someone. And if that's the case, those individuals will be more than happy to have the opportunity to repair, to have the opportunity to say, let me fix, let me clean the milk that is spilled, right? So that they have somewhat a clean conscience. If I drop the ball, I'm ready to make corrections.
Yeah, because above all, we were born simple and unaware.
That's right.
So we are learning.
Yes, we are going to make
Some
mistakes.
of us recognize the mistakes right away. Some takes a little bit long, but we'll get there.
And then I usually say we say God does not forgive us. But if you consider forgiveness of God, the forgiveness of God is expressed in opportunities. God does not forgive us because God does not hold grudge towards anyone. But if there is a forgiveness of God, it's expressed on new opportunities. Oh, I really dropped the ball there. No problem. I'll get opportunity to go back and fix it, which we're going to talk soon in the next chapter, reincarnation. And on the contrary, for the ones who lived here, peace with their own conscience, they have no difficulty readjusting in the spiritual world. They don't have the conflict. Their readjustment is quite easy. If you read the book Heaven and Hell of one of the books of the congregation, when you see the two parts of the book of the unhappy and the happy spirits, you see the clear differentiation of those who depart here in tremendous amount of debit, the hardship that they find in the spiritual world. And on the contrary, when the part of the book that deals with the happy spirits, we see there is almost a moment of joy. They're happy to go back home. They're happy to leave that physical body behind. They are happy to have that sense of clarity, that sense of being able to do a lot more in the spiritual world than we're able to do here. The more we evolve, the more we want to work. You know, when Kardec asked the spirits what is the absolute happiness, and they said for the pure spirits is to receive the command directly from God and execute it. So for them, happiness is work. For me, it's vacation. But for them, you know, it's work. So going back in the spiritual world, if you are with a clean conscience, it's a joy. On the contrary, it may be a little heavy. Comments, questions? Okay.
Number 160. Are spirits immediately surrounded by people who they knew on earth and died before them? Yes, according to the degree of affection they had for them, and vice versa. They often come to them upon their return to the spirit world and help them shed material ties. Others whom they formerly knew, but may have lost contact with on earth, come to meet them as well. They see all who are wandering and visit those who are still incarnated.
So that is one of the things that, again, we have to keep in mind that it is in potential. And just again, the example, can humans swim? The answer is yes. But I'm sure that you'll find lots of humans who cannot swim. But if you ask, can humans swim? The answer has to be yes. Although we know there is exception to the rules. I know that those who never learn to swim, there are those who are not able to swim. But in potential, human can swim. So in potential, when we return to the spiritual world, we can be reunited with loved ones who are there. Some may be waiting for us. Some may take part in the process of helping that separation, doing whatever they can. But it depends on one thing here, according to the degree of affection they had for them and vice versa. What I usually say, the relationships that have a foundation in true, real love are just as eternal as we are. But the relationships that purely at the limit of the physical, just a blood tie, brothers and sisters never had any affection towards one another. They go back to the spiritual world, they don't care for one another, they may not be reunited. They have to be together for their incarnation, but they did not develop that affection and a relationship based on love, but just based on genetics. They may not care to come and visit you when you have time to discarnate. Relationships based in financial, social status, it may just end with the physical body as well. But those who are really based on something more than material, they are just eternal as we are, and they may be there to help us. We have to make a big exception, parentheses over here, because some may not be in condition to do so. Okay, I mean, we always want to think of our loved ones who are in the spiritual world as being little angels, but the truth is not that. It's not like that. Some of them, they may not be in condition to come and receive you as much as they like to, would be more harmful at that stage for both, and they will not be there. We can over parentheses for those who perhaps are reincarnate and have difficulty of, even at the time of sleep, going back to the spiritual world while it's still incarnate and be there for you. That may be a problem for them. But in general, in potential, if you and your grandma and your grandpa have a very loving relationship, grandma and grandpa went back to the spiritual world 20, 30 years ago, and now you go back and they may be there for you. They may be there for you. Because the relationship is based on something more than a physical. Because they still love you just the same way when they left here, and you continue to love them the same way. So there's a good chance that if they are in condition, if there is no barriers at the moment, then they will be there. There may be some barriers in some cases, but in potential, again, when we go back to the spiritual world, we will have the opportunity upon waking up from the confusion that we're just going to talk here now, to see faces that will be very pleasing to us to see. Unfortunately, and somebody can ask, the contrary could be true. There might be a little enemies waiting for that too. It depends where you vibrate. It depends what's the state of your mind as well. But in general, benevolence, divine benevolence is so good. We are somewhat protected from them. Let's really drop the ball. And we're not going to see them for a while, but you'll be seeing the loved ones in potential. Questions? Comment?
Could I ask a quick question?
Absolutely. It's an open, it's a study group.
These helpers that help us to shed our materialism, before you, at the beginning of the lesson, you mentioned those 72 hours and the severing of the silver cord. If you're estranged from your family and my physiology is like an American guy from New York, but psychologically, I've spent most of my time in Spain and Portugal. Could the helpers be from, since I don't have family, could it be from 3 or 4 incarnations before that still love me? Could they still be a part of my life?
So two things here. When I mentioned the workers, those are the professional works in the field of separation. They are the same way that the
doctors and
professionals,
nurses.
the same way they are the professionals, nurses over here, professional doctors, professional engineering.
They remember me, like the constructors remember me and the doctors and.
Yeah, no, so this is one thing, these are the professionals, they don't need to know you, that's what they do. The same way that right now, if you feel sick, you need to go to a hospital, there will be a professional to take care of you there. They don't know you, you get a little history here and there to better help you, but they are workers in this field, professionals in this field, that's what they do. So so let's say right now, a little aneurysm pop in my head and I collapse right here and I bye-bye right here, right now. It could happen, doesn't it, right? Likely, just as a scenario, someone will notify my guardian angel, say, hey, call the EMS of the spiritual world. This guy needs to be separated from his body right now. They'll come in, they don't know me. Now, on top of that, we may have those who like us, those who know us, those who wants to be there to console, to receive us, okay? Those may be from this very present reincarnation, they may be from previous reincarnation. So it could be my mom or my daddy, not from this incarnation, maybe of two incarnations ago. All right, or maybe never being a blood tie, just someone that to whom we develop a true loving or love-based relationship that will be there. It can be from this reincarnation that we established that relationship. It could be from previous reincarnations. But again, once that reincarnation, that is based on true love, they're just eternal as we are. So if they are available, there's no barriers, right? They are not reincarnated. You know, maybe you guys have been together three reincarnations ago, and they are able, they'll be there for you.
The barriers would be like when they discarnate, or they maybe had issues that were not resolved, and they're educating themselves now and elevating themselves, so they're not ready until they're elevated much higher.
That's one possibility. Maybe there are many houses my father mentioned. Maybe where you were right now and the other one is not and cannot reach you, or vice versa. That's another barrier, right? Or they are reincarnated. So when I go back to the spiritual world, I say, where is my grandma? I expect my grandma to be here. I love her. Oh, she can't. She was just reincarnated. She's only 3 years old now in the physical world. She can't.
When I discarnate, the intelligence I receive here, like I keep my individuality, I'm going to keep this intelligence.
Ay, Dios mío, what happened? How did that table get there? Yeah, no, I pushed it. Yeah, that part. Yeah, you know what?
Guys.
Oh my. Look, the tile? Yeah, maybe because they're old. Yeah, well, hello. Hello. Okay, wait a second. It smells.
Umbra. So for instance, if his wife discarnated while he was
We're still in Umbra.
well, he will not be there
That
for
would be
her.
a big barrier, exactly.
Yeah, that would be a big barrier, so he will not be there for her.
Exactly.
So that's the barrier, the spirits wanna tell us. Right?
Yeah. So it's like you may have a very good friend in Brazil who, let's say, is getting married. and they invite you, you'd love to be there, but you can't. You have something important that week over here. You have to take a big test or a change of job, something that you cannot make. You just cannot make. There's a barrier. You'd love to be there. They would love to have you there, but there is something that doesn't allow that to happen right now. Just like that. Okay?
161.
Yeah.
In the event of violent or accidental death, when the organs have not been deteriorated by age or disease, does the separation of the soul and the end of organic life occur at the same time? Usually, and at any rate, the interval between them in such cases is very brief.
Read 162 also, because they are so connected. And then the explanation of Kardec will give a very good summary of the answer of the spirits.
162. After, after decapitation, does a person retain any form of consciousness? They frequently do for a few minutes until the organic life of the body is completely dead. The fear of death often causes people to lose consciousness before their demise. This question simply refers to the awareness that victims may have of themselves as a person and not as a spirit. If they have not lost their awareness before death, they may retain it for a few moments afterwards, but only for a very short period of time, which must cease with the end of the brain's organic life. The termination of human consciousness by no means implies the clean separation of the perispirit from the body. On the contrary, when death has resulted from violence and not gradual extinction of life, the bonds tying the body to the perispirit are tighter, and the release is completed more slowly.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here now. We spoke last week about the amount of vital fluid we have within us as we're going along in our incarnated life here, right? And the comparative analogy that we used is when you're ready to reincarnate, come back to the physical world, you're going to sit down with your guardian angel, in the Ministry of Reincarnation. They're going to say, here it's basically your syllabus, right? This is what we would like you to accomplish. Here's a little depths that I think you can take care of it now. This is what we expect you to learn. These are a few things that you have to do. Readjust relationship with such and such. You understand? You understand? Okay. For this, we expect you to stay there for about, in physical chronological time here, and then let's say 60 years. We're going to provide you vital fluids to last you those 60 years. Does it mean that now I'm gonna live 60 years regardless? Of course not, right? I may commit suicide, it's my free will. There is a few cases in which they can add a little more of vital fluids for you. It was the case of Chico Xavier, is the case of Divaldo Pereira Franco. Then we can exchange a little bit, give a little bit more, okay? And the analogy that I make is, I'm gonna give you a car. I'm gonna fill up the tank of this car, and you're supposed to go to Washington, D.C. With this tank, if you drive properly, 60, 65 miles per hour, respecting the trends, not abusing. You have plenty of gas to make that, okay? But if I decide to drive at 120 per hour and go zigzag on the road, I may burn that gas before I get to Washington DC. My free will, my misuse of the tools placed in my hand, my responsibility. Let's assume also once I'm getting to Washington DC, close to get over there, they come to me and said, you know, I wanted to take a message down to South Carolina. I'm gonna put a little more gas here for you. Little more gas, you can make to South Carolina. Extend a little bit more. But most of us have that plan of the length that our reincarnation should be. And again, it's a loose plan. Nothing is straight, okay? We have free will, okay? That individual that is to go like 60 years, if he is doing these things right, slowly he start to lose free vital fluids, because the same way that when you're driving, you see that tank going from full to medium, going down, your your vital fluid is going to be the same thing, going to be depleted. As you deplete those vital fluids, you start to have some disconnect, something start get loose already, okay? So by the time that the tank is empty and you've finished all your vital fluids, the physical body will die, but the transition is slow. That you know, think that you return back to the physical world. It's easy. There is nothing very dense of a lot of energy holding to the body, because life wants to persist, right? The body wants to stay alive. But if there is no more gas, there is no other way, right? Now let's assume that same person is healthy, has no physical problem, no chronic disease, works out, eats properly, is a good example of good health. Gets into a car accident and have instantaneous death at age 25. Well, that physical body is loaded with vital fluids. They're going to have to be recycled, reused. In nature, not as a waste, so I don't know where it goes. But it has to go somewhere up. And again, Lavoisier laws, nothing is waste. Everything is recycled, everything is reused, right? The separation of the body now is a little bit more difficult. It may take a little bit longer than if he was at 60 years old when he was about to go, because all the connectors are still there, it's still dense connected. It still has a lot of vital fluids trying to hold on to that spirit as well. It will happen at most in 72 hours, no more than that, according to Emmanuel. Not according to Emmanuel, okay? It may be a little bit more difficult because it has all those connectors still there. He's 25 years old, not 60. But it will happen up to 72 hours. And depending upon, and here's the great factors here is one, just plain knowledge, and Father Alf Kardec will discuss that again. Just by having knowledge, just understanding that our life is eternal, just by having understanding that without the physical body continue to be yourself, may possess more than the one who does have no understanding of that, more than the one that's pure materialist and think that with the death of the physical body, there is nothingness, right? That makes it more difficult because no one wants nothingness, right? So it's hard to accept the death of the physical body because you are still alive. So you try to hold down to that body as much as possible, because without that physical body, there is nothingness, right? So that may complicate a little bit more, okay? And of course, the merit in accordance with your moral values. The more merit, the more good deeds you do, the more people will be there to help you, and all the prayers that people will send for you will facilitate that process as well. Okay, so this question of Kardec is extremely important. The 161. Now, in the event of violent or accidental death, when the organs have not being deteriorated by age or disease, that's important, right? Someone who is dying slowly, let's say, of a chronic disease, a terminal disease, a cancer, or a very severe case of a cardiac condition, or something that is chronic, and it's the individual is slowly losing vital fluid, is slowly disconnected, knowing that it's gonna end up with his life, but it's not abrupt, it's going slowly. We have an easier process because the body is already debilitated. Some of those connectors are already separated. Then again, 30 years old, full of health,
Okay.
and have a accidental.
Yeah, I'm on a conference call. I won't be finished till about probably around 10.
Okay, does it make sense? And then Kardec asked, in case of decapitations, because again, at the time of Kardec, there was
How about tomorrow morning? Okay, thank you.
it was a common capital punishment, right? The guillotine. Kardec asks if at the moment that guillotine reaches your neck, does the individual has conscience? And Kardec comes in and explains, my question is not of the spirit, but the person itself, I, Elmo, not the eternal spirit of Elmo. At the moment that guillotine separate my head from the rest of my body, do I have any degree of consciousness? The spirit says you might have a little bit until that brain dies completely. It may take, now you know you're gonna be extremely fast. You know, the brain is very hungry for oxygen and glucose. I mean, it'll be almost instantaneous, but that there will be a fraction of a second in which that the spirit will have, that the person will have consciousness. That's what the spirit's answer over here. Okay, so after the decapitation, does a person here, not the eternal spirit, retains any form of consciousness? They frequently do for a few minutes. In a few minutes, we know today is perhaps an exaggeration. You know, the physical body, the physical body of the brain will be able to sustain any kind of consciousness for a few minutes. That a minute is a long time. 60 seconds is a long time. So maybe it's a little bit of exaggeration here. Until the organic life of the body is completely dead. Now, that's interesting that the fear of death often causes people to lose consciousness before the demise. So that overload of catecholamine, that stress, you know, catecholamine is the hormone of the stresses, you may faint. But you know you had on the guillotine, close your tongue, count 1, 2, 3, by 1, you collapse. You got so much adrenaline going on that you faint. So much catecholamine that you faint that perhaps you, by the time the guillotine reaches your neck, you are already kind of unconscious already. And that's what the spirit says over here in the very end. The fear of death often causes people to lose consciousness before their demise, which I think is a blessing.
Yeah, I was about to say
If
that.
my head's right there, I know that the guillotine is gonna come soon, and if I got a chance to go to sleep before I hit my neck, it'd be nice. It'd be nice, right?
But Elmo, so, I've read a couple of books that said that sometimes in an accident, for instance, some benefactors can, and I might be wrong saying remove the perispirit already from the body, but they do something that you don't feel like the impact of an accident. I can come up with the name of the book right now, but it's like, especially if you are a good person, let's say, like, so you have this merit not to feel the death of the physical body, so you are already disconnected. Does that make sense?
Like a plane crash, you're going down, you know it's gonna happen before you hit the mountain or the water, that feeling, that fear, that.
So there is the two possibilities, one purely organic. Right now, the spirit side over here. Only that fear of death, you may lost consciousness. There's so much catecholamine release that is overwhelmed the system, and you fainted before it happens, right? The airplane is falling down. I'm so scared that I may faint and don't even see that it happened. True, it's true that you receive the assistance at the moment of the accident itself. It happened. You're going to go next week on the spirit confusion that will cover this more, okay? There will be assist. Again, no one in this kind of alone. You will receive help. Even if you're not being a good person, there'll be the professionals over there. Okay. Now, if you have the merit, you may be taken away from there immediately. At the moment that physical body no longer has vitality, at the moment that silver, even before the silver cord is disconnected. Even before, when we dream, we can go to the spiritual world, hang out the spiritual world, we're still attached with the silver cord, right?
Yeah.
So even before the separation is complete, the spirits may take you away already, start helping you, treating you over there, and the workers of the separation continue their work and make the separation completed. You yourself, as a spirit, may be someone else having that merit.
So you don't feel the impact of.
Right.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Can I just ask the earlier question about that penetrating evaluation? Do we do that on ourselves?
What was that?
The earlier question, after you're discarnate, you do a penetrating evaluation. It was,
What was that?
159, the last sentence.
Okay.
we will not dread even the most penetrating evaluation. Do we evaluate ourselves with our conscience? Is that how that
Yes,
happens?
it's yourself. That's you with your conscience. And that's why I usually say that we end up going to spiritual world where our conscience takes us. We are our own judge. And there is no escape from ourselves. We can fool everyone else, but we cannot fool ourselves. Yes, we do that ourselves. Any more questions, comments? Okay. Carol? Can you do a
Yeah. Oh, sure. Thank you very much, Elmo. Thank you for hosting this evening. And thank you, Philip, for reading for us tonight. We appreciate everybody who's here. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks for the opportunity to be together again for our studies of the Spirit's book. We're reading through chapter 3 of book 2. The title is Separation of the Soul and Body. Once the silver cord has disconnected from the physical body, the soul returns to the spiritual world as an errant spirit. This process takes up to 72 hours. Some may remain mentally or materialistically attached to their body or to the familiar surroundings which they have left behind. Loved ones in spirit may welcome and assist those who have newly crossed over into the spirit world. This process may be blissful for some, and yet it may be confusing for others, depending on the state of consciousness and the particular circumstances at the time of death. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, the counselors, the mediums, the workers, and all who are affiliated and are participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritus centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we remind ourselves to go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of service, of charity, which is love in action. May peace prevail. So be it.